first. I think for me, I went to McMaster for undergrad, and it just really came down to getting a different style of experience at an academic institution. I was already, aware of what McMaster looked like, what Hamilton felt like. So I think for me, the living aspect was critical and important in deciding where I went. But I also personally, based on my research, was informed that the affiliations, I like the networks and affiliations that UofT brought to me in terms of research, in terms of hospital networks. And so I thought UofT would be a better fit for the type of person I am, because I, do see myself engaging in more academic level of work once I am done medical school. So I think for me, at least UofT was critical in terms of developing those networks and those connections.
You're now listening to Season 3 of Spark After Hours, where we sit down to chat with STEM professionals every Sunday. If you like this episode, consider following us on Spotify and Instagram at Spark Hacks. We hope you enjoy.
Hey everyone listening, welcome to Spark After Hours podcast, Episode 3, Journey to UofT Med. My name is Shubh Patel, a Finance and Corporate Relations Executive at Spark, currently a grade 10 student at Turner Fenton Secondary School.
I'm Sarmista Paul, part of Spark's executive marketing team, currently a grade 9 student studying at John McCrae Secondary School. Spark is a nonprofit organization at the forefront of empowering young minds for the future. Our mission is to nurture skills essential for a seamless transition into STEM fields, all within inclusive environments that foster creativity and leadership.
Join us today as we explore the journeys of Vidhi Bhatt and Shubh Patel and discover how their passion for medicine has driven them to enter one of Canada's best medical schools and how they continue to grow their success. They both completed their undergraduate programs early in just 3 years and are now first-year medical students at UofT's Temerty School of Medicine.
Hi guys, and thank you so much for being here today. And let's just get started by you guys introducing yourself. That's okay.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having us. Just a quick introduction. My name is Shubh. I'm a first-year medical student at the University of Toronto. I'm also a research associate at the Libin Cardiovascular Institute, where I conduct research that focuses on the treatment and prevention of various heart diseases. That's a little about what I do, but to quickly touch on my upbringings. I was born in India, and my family and I moved to Canada when I was about 2 years old, because they thought that Canada would offer us a better chance at life. And although we did struggle a lot trying to get settled in initially because of financial burdens and some cultural barriers at that time, we really just powered through and had an immense support from the community around us. And that's really what's brought us to where we are today. And so with everything that I do now, all the initiatives that I'm a part of, I always ask myself, how can I make it easier for others to also reach where I am today? And so some of the ways I'm just trying to do that is through my involvement in my volunteer work, extracurriculars, and also one of the reasons why I did decide to pursue medicine, but I can touch on that afterwards. And outside of the stuff that I do on a day-to-day basis, some hobbies that I am very passionate about and might showcase who I'm on a more personal level include sporting. I love running and playing basketball. My go-to sport is probably actually basketball, but any sport you give me, I'll thoroughly enjoy it. And I also love creating content, as I have my own YouTube channel and podcast. My YouTube channel, it's called Shubh Patel. I essentially just created content that provides other people an insight into my life and also share ideas that might resonate with me. And then in my podcast, it's called STEM Fellows. I have prominent individuals in the field of STEM I essentially interview them so that they can hopefully inspire and other people to make it easier for them to reach where they are today. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shubh. Again, my name is Vidhi, and I am also a first-year medical student at the University of Toronto with Shubh. A little bit about my background. I was born in India, came over here to Canada when I was 4 years old, and I grew up pretty much in Brampton, Ontario, for the rest of my life. And I think that really has shaped a lot of how I view my own culture, how I view medicine, because it has really emphasized, for me at least, the need to advocate for women's reproductive health, specifically in the realm of South Asian women, and sort of looping that piece in together with the stigma associated with mental health as well. So a lot of the research work that I do is an integration of those two aspects. And alongside with that, I also do have an angle of global health advocacy, whether it is through my volunteering, through the extracurriculars that I've been involved in. Most recently, I took an internship in India, specifically focused on global health advocacy. So a lot of the work I do is within these fields. And I really do hope that as I go through medical school, that I'm better able to engage myself further in these aspects, so I can be a more holistic physician in the future.
Great. Thank you so much. That was a very, very good response from both of you. So moving on to the second question here. What did you do for your bachelor's, and how did you complete your undergraduate in just 3 years?
Vidhi, you can take this one.
All right, I will. So I went to McMaster University for my bachelor's. I started out in the integrated science program. For those that really don't know what it is, it's a very research intense program. It's a class of only like 50 to 60 people. So again, very, very small, which allows us firsthand access to the professors. So we really did focus on interdisciplinary research, trying to integrate a lot of the disciplines together. And I majored in biochemistry, so I tried taking more so the core chemistry, organic chemistry, biology courses as I progressed through integrated science. And then, like most of us, applied to medical schools at the end or the beginning of third year, and was fortunate enough to be accepted. And that resulted in my undergrad ending early, but I did have enough credits built up so that I was able to get a bachelor's of life sciences at the end of it. So I did have that graduation, which was really, really nice. But yeah, that was my background, I guess, with regards to undergrad.
Yeah, and similar to Vidhi's story, mine's fairly similar. I attended university in Alberta at the University of Calgary, and I studied biomedical sciences. But actually, my first year, I was enrolled in the Bachelor of Sciences program, majoring in biochemistry. But I just after first year, I realized that chemistry wasn't. I wasn't the biggest fan of that subject. And so after realizing that, I found out that I could transfer into the biomedical sciences program. And I also, after first year, I realized that I enjoyed applying like human health topics more, and also enjoyed research a lot more. That's actually why I ended up, like, that was my ended all be decision to transfer into biomed, because a lot of the courses that we took were more integrated and more hands-on rather than just learning the theory behind things. And so I really appreciated that. And so similar to Vidhi, applied at the end of, I guess at the start of third year, and then found out that I received offer and got into medical school at the end of third year, and now I'm here. I unfortunately did not get to graduation because my program doesn't give us an early graduation, so I won't have a degree until I get my MD, but I'm okay with that. We'll power through.
Okay, like for the next question, we just want you guys to describe a little bit about the whole med school admission process and how it was for you.
I can take a stab at it and then you can add on, Shubh. So it's a tedious process for sure. It takes a long time. I guess the core of applying, at least within the realm of Ontario, and I guess you can provide an out of province perspective on the Shubh, is essentially you have, you do your MCAT. Once you have your score and you kind of see what schools you're eligible to apply to, you then go ahead and fill out your entire OMSAS portfolio, which is essentially a culmination of your reference letters. You get 3. And then your ABS, which is essentially your autobiographical sketch, which is a reflection of all the stuff you've been doing since the age of 16, whether that's your employment, past employment, any extracurriculars, any research positions you've had, awards, scholarships, things like that. So a bunch of different aspects that you can essentially choose to report that really showcase who you are as an individual. And then depending on what school you apply, there might be supplementary applications involved, like UofT has their entire sub-app, whereas something like McMaster or Ottawa does not have an additional application. It's just that core OMSAS application you submit. And then you submit it by sometime in October and you wait around and hope you get an interview at that point.
Yeah, and just adding on to what Vidhi said, it was very comprehensive and you summarized it very well. But just to add some more details on top of that, it is important to be aware that like you touched on, the medical school admission process, it does vary across every university in Canada. Some are identical, other universities do it slightly different, but really the main component main components to be mindful of that most universities do consider and want you to undergo are to have completed your MCAT, either have met like threshold scores or have met like a certain competitive criteria in that exam. And MCAT just stands for Medical College Admissions Test. It is composed of a test of like 4 different subjects. I don't know, like some people very much enjoy some of those subjects, other subjects they don't enjoy it at all. CARS is like a English comprehension test that's like notorious for most medical school or medical students not enjoying at all. I personally was not the biggest fan of it either, but it's okay. We're here now. We ended up finishing that. So MCAT is one of the main things that most schools look for in Canada, except Ottawa and like the Quebec schools because they're bilingual. Another thing is your GPA. So that's like having it as high as possible, basically. And then you touched on this, but letters of references as well. And then like what Vidhi said in the like portfolio that you have when you're applying to Ontario medical schools, they ask you to list out your different extracurricular activities, whether that's volunteering, research, etc. And that's similar for out of province schools as well, but it's just like different ways of doing it, like whether it's like supplementary apps. Some schools have those, others are just like write out descriptions of the activities you've had. But yeah, just tying that out.
And I think I forgot this, but there's also some schools also need a Casper test later on once you submit your application. Like McMaster did for ones. I think Ottawa also did. UofT did not. Essentially, I think a lot of different health professions also do end up taking this test. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shubh, but it's basically like a personality ethical intersection test. Essentially, that just reviews how, I guess, moral you can be and how you can problem solve through certain daily real life situations. It's like an online test that you take, and then you get like a quartile ranging score, and that will just again be added on to as one of the markers to dictate if you are accepted or not.
Yeah. So Casper, I definitely one of those exams that you do have to take. Not all schools do consider it, so important to be mindful of the ones that do still required in Canada, and then that changes every year. So just read up on it. Mm-hmm. And then interviews, obviously. So after you go through all of that, and you're fortunate enough to get an interview, then that also varies based on the school you get the interview from, because every interview style is different at each school.
Yeah, I mean, like the different formats, you know, like there's the MMI, there's just a classic hop on a Zoom call interview. And again, like it might change in the coming years in terms of online or in person. But at least for our cycle, it was online.
Yeah, thank you so much for the comprehensive background of how to apply to med school. I know that'll be very, very beneficial to a lot of our listeners here. And yeah, so you guys must have applied to a lot of med schools when, you know, making that decision. So what was really the moment that led to the final decision of choosing UofT as where you want to pursue medicine at?
Vidhi, it's your home province if you want to kick it off.
Sure, I can talk a little bit about it first. I think for me, I mean, I went to McMaster for undergrad, and it just really came down to getting a different style of experience in an academic institution. I was already, you know, aware of what McMaster looked like, what Hamilton felt like. So I think for me, the living aspect was critical and important in deciding where I went. But I also personally, based on my research, was informed that the affiliations, I like the networks and affiliations that UofT brought to me in terms of research, in terms of hospital networks. And so I thought UofT would be a better fit for the type of person I am, because I, you know, do see myself engaging in more academic level of work once I am done medical school. So I think for me, at least UofT was critical in terms of developing those networks and those connections.
That's a great answer. I'll piggyback along what you said, and would say my approach to deciding the medical school was also very similar. Just to provide some context, I can give a background on the schools I applied to, was considering between, and then why I ended up deciding U of T. So I applied to 5 medical schools in my cycle, all of the ones I was eligible for, mostly because I was applying out of 3rd year. And so I applied to UBC, University of Calgary, University of Toronto, U Ottawa, and Queen's. I ended up getting an interview at all of them except Queen's. Queen's probably, I don't know, they just don't like me. And then from the schools I got interviews at, I got an offer at everywhere, and then was waitlisted at U Ottawa. So before I went through all of that, I was actually top 3 choices were UBC, U of T, and U of C, and I ended up receiving offers from all 3. And so now I was just deciding between like which one I would go to. And my top 2 choices were U of T and U of C, and I actually wished I didn't receive offers from both, so then I wouldn't have to choose between them. But fate had it, I had to end up deciding between both of them. And so when I was initially applying, like near the start of the cycle, I was all in for U of C. That's where I wanted to go. Like that's where I'd been for the last 3 years of my life. I already had all of those connections and resources established, so it would make it even easier for me to continue on in high school, or sorry, in med school. It was close to home. It would have been a lot cheaper. And so those are just some of the things I had to weigh. But then I also had to consider U of T. It's renowned for being one of the best medical schools in Canada. It has some top-notch research opportunities and output, one of the best clinical, medical, whatever educations. But despite considering all of that, it's also extremely expensive. And it's like it's on the other side of the country of where I was from, right? But I would say the deciding factor ended up deciding U of T versus U of C. I would have had to say it was like where I wanted to see myself. So exactly what you said, Vidhi, about like the person I wanted to see myself in. Training in Toronto, I would have a more diverse patient experience. I would get exposure to a lot of different things. And although there would be risks involved, like the expenses and like starting all over again, I knew that if I approached it the right way, it could be very beneficial and could actually lead me to where I want to be in the future. And so after evaluating all of those things and talking to mentors and stuff, I ended up deciding to U of T, and I don't regret my choices at all. It's an amazing school, and I would never go back on my decision.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to echo the same thing. One thing I do know that comes into consideration is because I was basically choosing between McMaster and UofT, and it's that McMaster's a 3-year program. And for some reason, that is a big weighing factor for a lot of individuals, especially because this is such a tedious, process. So for context, again, I applied to 3 schools, Ottawa, Mac, and UofT, and I was fortunate to get offers and interviews for all of them. And so for me, again, Ottawa was too far from home. And then Mac, I was there for a while. And so I was really debating 3 years versus 4 years. So like, I guess, take that into consideration when you're applying, what it means to be in terms of like where you see yourself later on, and how many years you do have to dedicate. Because again, a lot of us are on different stages of our life. Some are, just getting out of undergrad, some have whole PhDs, and then, getting to the whole MD process. So really reflect on what each school has to offer and the communities they're working in.
Now this question is like a really popular question because a lot of high school students are wondering this, but what extracurriculars activities did you participate in during high school? And what would you recommend aspiring medical students to partake in to increase their chances of getting into a good university?
Shubh, why don't you go first for this?
Yeah, that's there's a lot of answers or ways this question can be approached. The way I would really look at this question is not really finding the cookie cutter ways of I do this activity, it will automatically get me into medical school. That is definitely not the right approach. Would you agree with that, Vidhi?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wish that was the case to make our lives easier, but there is no one answer. There is
definitely
one applicant, 100%.
Yeah. Even in our medical school class, for example, there's 277 people in our class. I've talked to a lot of them, and I realized that none of us have the same exact set of experiences. Even between me and Vidhi, right? We've both done different things. that have brought us to where we are today. But I'm sure there are still common themes between the things we've done, in that whatever we have done, it's probably something we're passionate about. And because we're passionate about it, we're willing to put more time and effort into it. And that's why we were able to get a lot more out of it. And we're able to write about that in our medical school applications, and we're able to get interviews and etc. And even in our interviews, able to talk about those activities because we genuinely enjoy doing them, resonated with them. And that's exactly what I would recommend, like aspiring high school students, is to try and find activities that you enjoy doing, and that also, like most activities, try to make a positive difference within the community. I felt like that is like one common theme amongst all of us, Vidhi, among the different things that we've done. And I'll let you add on, but just one last thing I would like to add on to what I just said about finding that genuine passion is that a lot of high school students now might ask, well, how do I find like that thing that I enjoy? Like, how do I find that passion, right? And really how I approach that question, like I was fairly naive when I was in high school. I was still trying to navigate life. I still didn't know what I really wanted to do. And really, in grade 9, when I started high school, there were a lot of different clubs at my school. They ran Monday to Friday. And what I really did was I tried to get as involved as I could in all of those initiatives. Later down the road, I realized that some I enjoyed or resonated with more. And those were really the activities that I spent more time on and contributed more of my efforts towards. And those other ones I maybe spent less time or ended up discontinuing. And that's really how you're able to, right? Like approaching it from the outside inside, rather than like zoning in on one or two things and then not having explored those other things. So yeah, that's my end. What about you, Vidhi?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I think everything you said was like so beautifully said. I think it just boils down to ensuring that whatever you do, there is some sort of longevity to it. You show that you are, at least to the side of the medical schools, you show that you're committed, you're dedicated, you have a genuine passion. And one way is to show that, you know, you've spent some time on whatever activity you're doing. So for example, like HOSA is something that it's a club that's popular in Ontario. It's something that I've done for like 6 to 7 years. So again, like showing that you've dedicated something, time and energy into something is one critical way. And I think it comes down to the skills, right? So are you able to, whatever you do, are you able to show leadership, communication, collaboration? Those are some of the key terms. And I'll chime in on the CanMeds framework, because that's like a big word that people will hear as they start applying is, you know, what are the true qualities of a physician? And, you know, trying to relate your experiences with that will kind of help you. And you're right, like starting out, try a lot of different things, see what you're interested in. And then obviously as you go into university, as your schedule gets a little bit busier, kind of narrow down and pick things you like the most, because at the end of the day, you're not going to have enough time to actually be able to contribute to every little thing you do. So pick the ones you're truly passionate about, truly interested in. And then I'm sure you'll find your story, you'll find your pathway that you want to take. And everyone has a different journey here, and all of us have very unique stories and interests. And I think that's what makes us so diverse as a cohort and as, you know, an eventual graduating physician class.
Beautifully said, yeah. And just to touch on, like, this is just for context, like, don't follow this, like, Shubh's done this, I'm going to do this now to get into UofT Med. But I can share some of my extracurriculars that I've been a part of, and then Vidhi, feel free to do the same afterwards. In high school, I was a part of like the student council. In terms of the longevity portion, now looking back, I realized that a lot of these initiatives that I was part of in high school, like I'm still doing them in some sort of form, right? So student council, then I still ended up doing that in uni, which was a part of through like the Health Sciences Students Association. And now in medical school, even
Class president,
I'm a part of the medical society, and I'm honored to be one of the class co-presidents serving our class of 277, however many people there are, right? So student council was one of the main ones. I was a part of the Interact Club, and Interact, it's a part of a larger organization known as Rotary International that aims to coordinate different service projects to ultimately better the world. So that's just like a quick sentence summarizing. They do a lot of different things like host fundraisers, humanitarian work, like volunteering with the community, so stuff like that. And so I was involved in high school, and then in university, the club for that is Rotaract. And I continued throughout that, and I'm still a part of it in medical school. Like I found a chapter here in Toronto, right? And then touching on that part about like starting out broad and then zooming in on a lot of the activities, one of those activities that was really outside there was Model UN, Model United Nations. What that is essentially it's a mock simulation of the United Nations. So we serve as delegates for whatever committee, and then we try to emulate or solve like pertinent humanitarian crises or health issues based on what community you're in, right? And I never would have imagined me being a part of that or even in that position. Like I was like very embarrassed. I was shy as a grade 9 student. I was terrified of public speaking, which is like crazy to think about now that like I do it so much. And so being in that position now, and then like having forced myself to stay in it and try to gain a sense of appreciation for it and find my interest within that, I realized that I was very passionate about health issues. And so I ended up being a delegate for the World Health Organization Committee. And that's where I really found my passion in that and was able to excel. And then looking back, I was able to win like some big awards at university committees, having just stayed in that and powering through. So yeah, that's some of the initiatives I've been a part of in high school, Vidhi. You feel free to share.
Yeah, for sure. Again, like you've done obviously some really incredible things. So kudos to you for that. I mean, I've already mentioned HOSA. Again, student council, also part of that, president back in high school. And then I've stayed like part of policy making when it comes to EDI inclusion through our university. So again, trying to have some form of leadership and advocacy through the different extracurriculars that I do. Something that I did find that was unique to me was actually being community advisor on residence. So it's more of like a full-time job, and I think that really taught me a lot of key conflict resolution and conflict management skills, which I think now thinking of it is really important as a physician. So don't always think that it's stuff that you have to volunteer for, get extracurriculars. Those skills can quite literally be embedded in the jobs that you could do, right? Let's say if you are a tutor or you do Kumon or whatever it is, right? Like those skills are embedded directly in it. So I mean, not everyone has, I guess, the opportunity or the flexibility or the ability to dedicate time beyond like a job or something, right? So don't make that steer you away from the field of medicine, because I promise you, whatever you're doing right now, you have the skills. There is some way they are connected to the world of being a physician. Other activities, I went to Turner Benton, which is a pretty relatively known school in Brampton, Ontario. And it was a big conference school. We hosted a lot of leadership conferences. I could list like 5 at the top of my head. I was very involved in steering some of those conferences there, and then taking that trajectory on to university. I chaired the academic symposium for my undergraduate program for 2 years in a row. It's like a 7-day long whole big show thing. So again, reflecting back on like seeing what parts of high school you like the best and taking them forward are obviously key. And then finding things that you like for yourself, right? So like for example, I really enjoy, we talked about basketball, so I really enjoy playing basketball, varsity basketball in high school, varsity lacrosse in high school. So although I wasn't able to dedicate full like varsity level time during university, I still stuck true with intramurals. And even in med school now, we're still doing intramurals. We had a game last night. So again, making sure you find time for like your personal passion interests, and you kind of find that fine balance, and you'll eventually be able to piece together those skills and be able to formulate a story for yourself.
Beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that, Vidhi. I think what you said is very important, and like everybody listening should be mindful of. So yeah, basically just the gist of what we said: do stuff you are passionate about, and don't force yourself to be a part of what you might think is the cookie cutter way of getting into med school. Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, I think those are some really, really good responses. I think that's definitely help a lot of high school students navigate the way of the complicated extracurricular realm that we have in high school these days. It can be quite overwhelming sometimes, and this sort of really helps narrow that down a little bit. So just one last question for this segment of the podcast here. So what is something that you wish you knew before applying to med school that you think is beneficial for others to know?
Vidhi, I'll let you take this one.
You can't. Okay. Maybe I'll say something and I'll add something later on, just because It's hard to think of something, but I think what I wish I knew is I can take my time, right? Because I feel like within the world of medicine, within, I guess, the whole application process, there is so much focus on just trying to get into medical school because it's, it's so competitive, it's whatever, that oftentimes we rush ourselves into opportunities. We funnel ourselves into things that we might not be as passionate about, but we still do them because we're like, if we don't jump on this opportunity at the current moment, we're going to miss out. Someone else is going to hop in, whatever, right? So I think just not rushing and slowing down and really evaluating how much time you have, because at the end of the day, you only have 24 hours in a day, and there's only so much you can do, and within those 24 hours, at least, I don't know, like 8 has to be for sleep, a few for yourself, and you really can't force more time in a day than there is. So I think at the end of the day, pick your battles, pick what you want to do, and don't rush into things just because they seem opportunistic, they seem good, and that will honestly make your whole experience much better. It'll make you a better, healthier human being, and honestly, it'll make you a better, healthier physician, and that's what we do need, right? We need high quality physicians, not just those that just are burnt out by the end of the time they're in medical school or they're out of medical school. Shubh, you can chime on to that.
I don't think I can that's such a good response. I don't know what else I can add. Yeah, so when I don't know, sitting here now, when I was applying, I had a pretty good idea about how med school would be. I had talked to a lot of people, and so even just looking back at my shoot 1 year ago, I don't have any regrets at this point. I'm genuinely very much enjoying med school. It's been an amazing time. I'm with some incredible people. But just something to be mindful in terms of the question that you'd ask. I don't have a direct answer to it, but just indirectly answering it, and something I've always kept in here, even throughout uni, is to enjoy the journey and not the just destination. And I think that also I think that's what you were trying to say, Vidhi. I'm just into one sentence, right? Is that even after you get into medicine, right? It's going to be about then now I'm here, now what, right? It's always, there's always going to be something afterwards, right? And so just enjoy every bit of the moment. Play basketball. Vidhi and I are part of intramurals. We did that last night. Have those hanging out with your friends every once in a while. Don't just be locked in and being your mindset all in from now until I breathe, sleep, and die, medicine. That's all I'm going to focus on. Everything I do in my life is going to be towards this goal. That shouldn't be the way things should be. Just enjoy life, have some fun with it. That's what I'd like to leave people on today.
All right, so we're gonna just move on to the contest segment. So thank you to everyone who participated in our contest segment, but currently we have no winners from episode 2. But once it is decided, we'll reach out to them shortly after this episode airs regarding their trivia question for our upcoming episode. And we can't wait to answer those questions in our next episode's rapid fire.
So yeah, we'll get started off with some quick rapid fire questions here. Don't take any time to think about it, just the first thing that comes off the top of your head. So with the first question, you guys can just alternate or answer both, one person answer then the next person. So first question, why medicine?
Longitudinal relationship.
Rapid fire question. Hold on.
You can't think, Shubh. Okay, longitudinal relationships.
Perfect. Shoot.
Oh, it's a one answer kind of thing.
Yeah.
Learning that I love helping people in patient care while volunteering at the hospital, and my involvement in healthcare research.
Perfect.
That one word, Shubh.
Next one's kind of odd, but Next one's kind of odd, but if you didn't choose medicine, then what would it be? Make it quick.
Sports journalist, 100%.
I'd pick research.
Right. So favorite medical TV show?
Grey's Anatomy. No questions asked.
Okay, I was gonna say that, but I'll say Good Doctor now, just to be different.
How about do you guys consider yourself as a coffee addict? Be honest.
Yes, on my 3rd coffee today.
3rd coffee, holy. Yeah, I don't do coffee. Milk and water for me.
I don't know how you're alive. I don't know.
As a medical student, isn't that a little against what you preach? Too much coffee.
It's not healthy behavior. I don't condone that. I need to learn how to
Coffee
Yeah,
is actually healthy for you at like the right serving size. It
yeah,
has
balance,
proven
balance.
health
We're getting better
benefits.
this week. Nutrition, balance.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Next question.
So introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert. Easy.
Extrovert in my friend group, introvert publicly.
All right,
Extrovert always.
this one's gonna be quick, but as a med student, what is one main skill that you think helps you a lot managing time and managing stress?
Haven't learned it yet, but discipline.
Google Calendar.
Perfect.
My
One
apologies.
last one here. So have you had any particularly influential mentors or role models in your journey towards becoming medical students?
Yeah, several. Everyone that you meet around you is truly inspiring. Just listen to them.
Everybody you meet around you, my sister, my parents, my research mentor, who's a cardiologist.
All right. So that concludes the rapid fire segment of our podcast. And so with that, this concludes episode 3 of our podcast.
Once again, thank you, Vidhi and Shubh, for joining us on today's episode of Spark After Hours.
And yeah, so make sure you follow Vidhi and Shubh on Instagram as vidhi.1302 and Shubh K. Patel. Check out his YouTube channel too.
Now check out our website, Spark, starttospark.ca, and follow us on Instagram at Spark Hacks.
And yeah, stay tuned for our next episode of Spark After Hours, where we bring yet another amazing, awesome guest. So yeah, Spark signing out. Thank you so much, guys.